Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to be reviewing some basic algorithm scripting challenges for freeCodeCamp. We're going to be taking a look at Chunky Monkey today. And as usual, there's a few things we need to go over. So here is Chunky Monkey. And it says that we want to take a look at prototype push, prototype slice. Okay, well, what are we trying to do here? Essentially, we're going to try to take in two arguments, which is an array and a size, and I want to create a new array that is broken up into subarrays. Okay, what is that? So let's take a look at how we can do this. Let's remember our slice method like we've done before. Our slice method is going to take in our positions. It's going to have two parameters, two positions. In this case, we have 1 and 3. Here's 0, 1, 2, and 3 in terms of their position in the array. And 1, it's going to slice right before the 1, 1, 2, 3, right before the 3, and you're left with 1, 2. All right, so that's a good review. One new one we have here is push. What push allows us to do is push values into a new array. So in this example, I have an array 1, 2, 3, and I want to push 4, and I end up with 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, that seems pretty simple, right? It's an array method we're going to be using. Now, for what we're going to do, we're going to be iterating through a while loop. Okay, and remember the while loop will keep iterating through while something is true, but we have something tricky that we have to do here with our math. So I'm going to be using math ceiling. Now what math ceiling does is it takes a number that's a decimal point and just rounds up. So if you use math ceil 0.95, you get an integer 1. If you apply it to an integer, it's just going to spit back out that integer. Look at this 7.004. It's going to round all the way up to 8, so on and so forth. Now, the opposite of this would be math floor, which would actually round down. But today we're going to be using the math ceiling instead. So how can we do this? Let's start off with some logic. So if I want to break this up into subarrays containing 4 or less, how many arrays do I have to break this up into? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things in this array. And what I need to happen is I need this function to spit out a new array that has a subarray of 0, 1, 2, 3, and then a second subarray with 4, 5. Okay, if I look at something like this ABCD over here in the example, and 2, we get 2 subarrays, one with AB, another with CD. So we're going to have to do some math to figure out how many things are in the array and how many we're going to need in the new subarrays. So the first thing I want to do is logically figure out how to give myself the number of subarrays that I need. And then I'm going to create a start point. So for this one, the first start point would be here at the 0th position, and then it would go 4. It would count 1, 2, 3, 4, and put all of this stuff in the new array. Then the next iteration through that while loop, it'll pick up the next 4 values. So my new start point will be here, or exactly 1, 2, 3, 4 positions away. Okay, and then it's going to capture the next 4, and then so on and so forth. So how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to start by creating some variables for those placeholders for my logic. I'm going to start with a variable for the start point, right? And I'm going to make that 0 because we're going to be starting with the 0th position of the array. I am going to create a new variable, right? And I'm going to call that my end. Create a space in there, correct syntax, that'll help. And my endpoint, I'm going to set to, it's going to be 4 places away. So how am I going to do that? Well, all I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with the initial value of 4 in this case, but this needs to apply to all of these different examples. And that 4 happens to be the argument size. So I'm going to just set that equal to size. Now, if I'm going to do a while loop for a certain number of iterations, I'm going to need a counter. So I'm going to create a counter. I'm just going to call it var count. And this is going to count the number of times I've gone through my while loop. And so we haven't done the while loop yet. We're going to set that at 0. So there's pretty much how we're going to get this set up. The next thing that we need to do is we also need an array to return that has all of these subarrays in it. So I'm going to create a new array as well. And that new array, I'm going to call answer, and I'm just going to make that an empty array. Excuse me. Or enter. And we should be able to get a new subarray there. Okay, so, and in the end, when I'm done, I want to return answer. So there's my setup. I have my logic again. I have an array to output to. I have a variable I can use as a start point. I have a variable I can use as an end point. And I have a counter to count how many times I'm going to iterate through, which is going to change based on the arguments that are brought in. So how can I do this? Well, here's where we're going to do some math. How many times, or how many subarrays do I need in this case right here? Well, I'm going to need 2 subarrays because 4, if we divide this whole array, which is 6 by 4, I end up with 1 and a remainder of 2. So, well, what do I want that to do? Well, we can use our math ceiling here to say if it's anything greater than an integer, such as a decimal like 1.5 in this case, it'll just round up and give us 2 subarrays, or 2 times through our while loop. So I'm just going to use a while loop. And remember, the while loop is going to continue to go and iterate through as long as what's inside these parentheses is true. So here's the hard part. I'm going to say while our counter is less than, make sure I get my syntax right, capital M for math, ceiling, and inside of here is the math that I do. Take a look at math ceiling. Just like you can use an integer, I can put a function in there or do some math inside of there to get an output. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do some math and just round up. So what math do I want to do? What the math that I want to do is I want to take the length of the array, divide it by this size. Okay, so this size, which is actually the end as well that I'm using here. But for right now, just the size. And I'm going to say that if it's greater than 1, or if it's 1 point something or 2 point something, it's just going to round up to give me that extra subarray to push into. So I'm going to need to say argument here, which is an array. Okay, and then I'm going to take the length of that array. So how do I take the length of the array? Well, I can just say dot length, and I'm just going to divide that by the size argument here. Right? So what that's going to do, in this case, the arr.length is 6 divided by size, in this case, is 4, and I end up with 1.5. The math ceiling of 1.5 is 2, so I'm going to end up with 2 subarrays, which is what I want. Good to go. All right, so that's all working out pretty well. So now what do I want inside of my while loop? Well, I'm going to be using push. I'm going to push values of this subarray that I'm slicing into a new array, that answer array, which is right here. Pretty solid. So how is this going to work? Well, let's look at this, and let's just say answer, which is that subarray, and I want to push into this, each iteration of the loop, a new subarray. So how do I get a new subarray? Well, that new subarray is going to contain something, and what is it going to contain? It's going to contain 4 values. So how do I do that? I can just say arr.slice, use my slice method, and I'm going to slice that using my start variable and end at my end variable. So what is that going to give us for the first time through here? It's going to give us the start. The initial start is 0, the 0th position. Again, it's going to start right before that 0th position. And it's going to go to the end. All right, the initial end is set. It's going to be initialized at size, in this case, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to be getting 4. All right, and so you go to the 4th position, all right, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's going to slice before it and give us exactly what we need, and it's going to have 4 things in it. Remember, it starts at 0. Now, that's good, but how many times are we going to be iterating through this loop? Well, right here, we know that count has to be less than this math dot ceiling. All right, so what is that going to give us? So let's take a look at this, and we're going to just say that our start position, and we used this before, plus equals, and we're going to be using this size to do our math. All right, so we have size, and what that's going to do is for the next iteration through, the new start position is just going to be 0 plus size, or 4. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, which means it's going to start right here. But now our start and our end is at the same position. So we want to also move our end position, for as well. Size. And there we go. So now our next one is going to be this next subarray. Now let's not forget to increment our counter by using count plus. And let's see our results. All right, you've got this. Pretty simple, right? So let's review some logic real quick before we quit out here. So as long as our counter, okay, so what is our initial count value? Our initial count value is 0, okay? So is 0 less than or equal to math dot ceiling of this math? So what is all this? The array dot length is 6, the size is 4, right? So that you get 1.5. 1.5 rounded up is 2. Is 0 less than 2? Now we're just going to push. All right, what are we going to push? Well, the slice of our array that has with the start and end position here. What's the start? The start is initialized at 0, which is right here. And the end is initially set at size, in this case 4. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right before it. And we have one subarray that has 4 things in it. And we add to the counter. So now counter is 1. We go back up here. Is 1 less than 2? Yes, it is. We do the same thing. We generate a new array. In this case, our start is here. And it goes 1, 2, oh, and then we run out of space. So it just ends the array. All right, and then we increase both of our start and our end. And we increase our counter. However, our counter is now 2. Now, is 2 less than 2? No, 2 is equal to 2. So we exit our while loop and we return our new array. And our answer, when we run this, we get an array with subarrays inside of it. All right, so hopefully this was helpful. You can always look up the math.ceiling and math floor. It's very helpful. And a lot of the math that we do, it just helps us either round up or round down. So hopefully this was helpful for you. And if you have any questions, remember, you can always send me a message or you can just ask me in person. So thanks a lot.